Mass resignations on top of more mass resignations within the Trump regime, specifically within the Department of Justice. You go to Minnesota, where 6 people who worked in the federal prosecutor's office there have quit over Trump's invasion of Minneapolis and St. Paul. And the top acting United States attorney there, someone named Joseph H. Thompson, a career federal prosecutor who was the acting U.S. attorney for Minnesota last year, was among the 6 prosecutors who just resigned, as the Justice Department said that they will not be investigating the shooter of Renee Nicole Good. They will be investigating Renee Nicole Good, and Maine Justice ordered the United States Attorney's Office in Minnesota to go after any groups that could be affiliated with Renee Nicole Good. We'll get to more on that in just a moment. At the same time, you had 4 top DOJ officials quit from Maine Justice, from the Civil Rights Division. This includes the principal deputy chief, the deputy chief, and the acting deputy chief, and potentially others there as well. As again, Maine Justice told the Civil Rights Division there that there would be no investigation regarding the shooter of Renee Nicole Good, but instead we're ordering investigations into Renee Nicole Good. And this adds to the thousands of DOJ lawyers and other staff who have either resigned thus far, have been pushed out, or have been fired. And, you know, we've been doing lots of videos here on the complete brain drain at the DOJ. And while you have these mass resignations as well, you have these individuals with no experience being labeled as the top federal prosecutors, like Lindsay Halligan for the Eastern District of Virginia, who are not literally qualified, both in terms of their background, and they have not been appropriately appointed under the Constitution and the laws of the United States. And there's another video that I'll do about this, but Lindsay Halligan from the Eastern District of Virginia is attacking a Trump-appointed judge from his first term, Judge Novak, who said, "You've already been disqualified by a federal judge named Judge Curry, and you can't call yourself the United States Attorney from the Eastern District of Virginia." And Halligan wrote a brief with Bondi and Todd Blanche, the number 1 and number 2 at the DOJ, attacking the Trump-appointed judge. And she goes, "I'm going to call myself whatever I want to call myself, including United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. And you have no say over me." I'm going to do a whole other video about that, but I bring that up here because you have these mass resignations taking place at the DOJ, and then you have these horrible, awful lawyers, human beings, and these like fake prosecutors out there who are destroying the DOJ. Let's just say it, who have destroyed the DOJ. Take a look at this New York Times article. 6 prosecutors quit over the push to investigate ICE shooting victim's widow. So they're going after the widow also. 6 federal prosecutors in Minnesota resigned on Tuesday over the Justice Department's push to investigate the widow of a woman killed by an ICE agent, and the department's reluctance to investigate the shooter. Joseph H. Thompson, who was second in command at the United States Attorney's Office, oversaw a sprawling fraud investigation that has roiled Minnesota's political landscape, was among those who quit on Tuesday. According to 3 people with knowledge, Thompson's resignation came after the senior Justice Department officials pressed for criminal investigations into the widow. It goes on to talk about how Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara said in an interview that Thompson's resignation dealt a major blow to efforts to root out rampant theft from state agencies. And so, you know, Trump's been saying, "Oh, we care so much about fraud in Minnesota." No, you don't. You've been the one pardoning all these fraudsters and granting them pardons and not actually rooting out fraud. And now you've pushed out the main prosecutor, who, by the way, was the one handling a lot of these cases. The other senior career prosecutors who resigned include Harry Jacobs, Melinda Williams, Thomas Calhoun Lopez, and others. And, clearly they're resigning for the exact same reasons, that they don't want to be forced to investigate the widow of the victim who was shot by an ICE agent 3 times in the face, while the ICE agent has been cleared before an investigation even take place, and how they now call Renee Nicole Good a domestic terrorist. And then, of course, you have the top DOJ officials who quit from the Civil Rights Division. And the head of that Civil Rights Division, Harmeet Dillon, previously said about all the people leaving, "I think it's fine. We don't want people in the federal government who feel like it's their pet project to persecute police based on statistical evidence, or persecute people praying outside abortion facilities. The job here is to enforce federal civil rights, not woke ideology." It's the head of the Civil Rights Division. Let's bring in Harry Litman from the Talking Feds YouTube, Talking Feds podcast, and Talking Feds Substack. Harry Litman was the top federal prosecutor in a division in Pennsylvania. You were a top prosecutor at Maine Justice, so you know how important the Civil Rights Division is. You know how important it is at a federal prosecutor's office like the one in Minnesota, to have an acting United States attorney and all of his deputies who have now quit. And this will result in more crime, but also the crime is being committed by Trump. Like, as I said, the DOJ isn't just corrupt and incompetent. One can say that it's almost at this point a racketeering enterprise engaged in its own crimes, whether it's covering up the Epstein files, or now going after widows, or threatening Jerome Powell. Make it make sense, Harry Litman.
Man, I wish I could, man. This is huge. And I'm here to tell you, I had the privilege of working on the Rodney King case, which had a similar kind of dynamic. Always when there's some kind of excessive force case, you have the delta force of one of the crown jewels, the other being the public integrity section, which previously was eviscerated. That was over the Mayor Adams case. Otherwise, there's no parallel I can think of in DOJ history, except maybe the Saturday Night Massacre. These kinds of resignations are the ultimate sort of scream out from attorneys who they've stuck through the whole year and more of different outrages, but this was too much. Let me start with the criminal section of the Civil Rights Division so people understand. It's a small section. They go around the country and they specialize in just these kinds of cases, which I'm here to tell you are difficult. You have often really tempestuous landscapes, people who maybe jurors are reluctant to convict police officers. There's political Sturm und Drang, all kinds of things. You need their specialty, their expertise. This is what they do. And the notion that they were told, as they were by Harmeet Dillon, "Oh, guys, we're sitting this one out." Their resignation was tantamount to saying, "Are you kidding? If we're not doing this case," and they do all of them, Ben, all of them around the country, most of which they turned down after investigating because these cases are very hard. If we're not doing this case, there's no sense in even having a criminal section in the Civil Rights Division. And this was a seismic, coordinated set of resignations. And then in the immediate aftermath, within 12 hours, because the dynamic here is you get the very best people. I'll refer again in the Rodney King case. The people who were handling that in Los Angeles were the absolute top guys in the office. So you wanted them and to know the judges, to know the local agents, but you have to have the expertise of the criminal section for both now to be saying, you administration are totally off the rails here, has to go all the way through the, both, as you say, the sort of field offices and Maine Justice. It's even a little worse. They've given this to the District of Minnesota and sidelined the actual folks who would always handle it from the Civil Rights Division. And that, of course, will give them the ability to say, oh, there's an investigation going on, even though it's clear the administration's already said up to the president, who asserted falsely, that the victim's car had hit the shooter, has already said that they support the shooter and not the victim in this case. There's no way to do a credible investigation, but it's gone all the way up for the Minnesota prosecutors to say, look, first, you're trying, as you say, to make this about the widow of the victim and some kind of, supposed political activity of hers. And then you're not consulting with the state, and they're not. That's the other thing you always do in these cases. You have local law enforcement. Remember Rodney King? First, it was tried as a state crime, and it could really be, you would think, that if the DOJ was somehow determined to let this one pass, as huge as it was and potentially terrible as it was, they would give Minnesota unfettered access. But all appearances are that they, in fact, are circling the wagons, even to the point of keeping evidence from them. So doing everything they can to cushion and shield the shooter. And look, these are hard cases. You have to look at them very carefully to figure out just exactly how you're going to play them. But everything we've seen says, at a bare minimum, this is a potential homicide under state law, killing under federal civil rights laws. This is something that, whatever your views on immigration and the like, whatever your support for Trump's overall initiative, to be so casual and dismissive and contemptuous of someone who was possibly killed in rank violation of the Constitution it's despicable. And the tandem resignations from the field and Maine Justice really speak volumes here. I don't know what happens now, because they are going, I think, to be determined to gum up the works. But this is, to me, has gotten way too big to just sort of let the air leak out of the tires and have it be last week's news. This gets to be a bigger conflagration by the day. And I'm just here to say those joint resignations are screaming all around the department as of today, both from the field and at Maine Justice. This is as big an indictment as has been leveled against the administration since it took the reins of the Civil Rights Division and acted basically to eviscerate it.
You and I have been covering first big wave of mass resignations we saw in SDNY when they cut the deal with Eric Adams.
That's right.
And there have been other big waves of mass resignations that we've covered at different periods of time. So while we talk about what just transpired this week, this is part of a broader pattern of thousands of people who work there who are leaving. And, it's not easy. A lot of these people who have remained, other than the people who are Trump MAGA, there are just people who, this was a career for them. They never expected that their life would be turned upside down in this way. And so it's just hard to leave a job that you may have worked 15 years, 20 years to go somewhere. But it does seem as it then kind of, at some point, what Trump's doing is impacting them in ways that hit deeply personal.
And a big subset of those people, Ben, for them, this is exactly the reason they came to the Department of Justice. Whatever case they're doing, this is the Department of Justice, standing against the most sort of rank and highly visible constitutional violations. And the point you made at the end is the really big one. Look, there's been terrible excessive force cases, and you can go back to Kent State, but in all of those, the officers were either rogue agents or out of control or in a quickly developing situation. This is all driven, even the actual kind of operations and the brutality of it, but certainly the treatment of the case and its smothering from the very top. It's stunning that the whole notion of an investigation that screams out to be undertaken is being smothered by the President of the United States, who, recall, should have nothing to do with individual cases anyway. This is screwed up 8 ways from Sunday, and this case, I think, is going to take its place next to the January 6th pardons and the reprisal prosecutions as the biggest. They have only 2 eyes, but it would be this is a third black eye. This is really big stuff.
Right. You got the lawyer, the top prosecutor there, Joseph Thompson, who goes, okay, I'm doing the fraud case. That doesn't the regime like that? I'm doing the fraud case against the daycare centers and we've been prosecuting them. Well, Joseph, now we want you to go after the widow. The widow of the peaceful protester who got killed? You want me to go after? I can't do that. Well, Joseph, but I'm the guy who did the fraud investigation. Yes, Joseph, you're not a team player, Joseph. It will happen to you no matter what it is. You're not safe from this regime. You're only, even if you're selfish and you truly don't care about, your only move is to resist because they come for you eventually.
What have you done for us lately? McBride, did you notice, was fired today? The person who said, I won't prosecute Comey. Yeah. They are ruthless, but man, within the Department of Justice, it had been hollowed out. Now it's like, decayed like a root canal.
Everybody, make sure you subscribe to Harry Litman's YouTube channel. It's called Talking Feds. He's got a Substack, Talking Feds. He's got a podcast called Talking Feds. Subscribe now. Help those channels grow. Thanks, Harry.
Hey, thanks, Ben.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.